Okay, we're done with Unit 12. Let's go ahead and get ready for the test. Here's the practice test. The instructions say use only a compass and a straight edge to complete the problems below. Do not erase your construction marks. I've got my pencil ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of a sharp point on that. So I'm going to go ahead and rub that over there. I've got my straight edge, and then I'm going to take this right here. I have this with a mechanical pencil in there. I'm going to go ahead and turn it like this so the point is up. And I'm just going to rub along here for just a second, and that'll put a nice fine point on the end of that lead tip right there. So on this one, I tend to do this one a little bit different than a lot of people. I like drawing a long line first because that gets me in a good habit of making sure that I'm ready for the ones where I add and subtract. So I'm going to go ahead and mark off from here to here. We stretch the compass that distance. We're going to put the point right there. Come back over here, make a nice arc there. And then the answer to this is from here over to here. That's our answer. Because what we've got here is we measured off that distance here. We marked the distance on this. If you wanted to do some light erasure here, that would be okay, or you could scribble it out or something like that. That is one advantage of doing the arc first and then the line, but it doesn't really matter on that one. We've got our line and then we've got our construction marks there. I'm going to go ahead and draw, again, a long line on this one. So we're going to draw a long line here, and then what we do is we mark off each one of these distances. So I'm going to set the compass to this distance. There we go. Come back over here, get right on that end point, and then put a mark right there. Then I'll come back and measure the distance on this other one. So we set the compass right here, and there we go. Looks pretty good, maybe a little bit smaller. Okay, come over here, and then you can see that both of these arcs are slightly different, but they're all curving back toward this point, and this one's curving back toward this point. So the answer on this one is from here all the way to there. And again, if you wanted to do a little bit of light erasing here, the thing I like about this is it leaves that line there, so anybody looking at this could tell that you did use this point right here as the center point for that second part. So let me go ahead and move this up right here. On this one, this is really important on the subtraction ones. We need to go ahead and draw a really long line right here. Actually, it wouldn't have to be any longer than the longest one. So we're going to mark off this distance first. Let's see if I've got that. That looks pretty good. So we're going to go from here to here. We mark that off. And then because we're subtracting, I'm going to go ahead and switch this around just to kind of get me in that habit. And I'm going to go ahead and mark from here to here. So make sure we're set up there. Now again, it's important that you have a little cushion of a couple pieces of paper underneath here so your compass point doesn't poke through the paper. So then I'll make a mark right here. And we can see, again, this is the distance of the long one, and then we go backwards, this distance of the short one. So the answer on this one is from here to here. Now, if you wanted to, you could come back again and erase this just a little bit. Definitely don't erase the arcs. And it's kind of nice, again, like I said, to see that line right there, but know that our answer is just from this point at the beginning to that point at the end. Okay, let's move on to this next one. It says copy the angle. I like starting with this line right here, so I'm going to go ahead and put a line on that one. And then we take our compass. It doesn't matter where it's set to, so I'm just going to put this point right here, and I'm going to make an arc on this one. Now, I could make a full arc, or I could just make an arc like that. Either way is totally fine. I'm going to come over here, and on this, it's usually a good idea to make a big arc like that, and make it big enough that you know that it's going to incorporate this particular angle there. So then we come back and we measure off from here to this intersection point. So I need to adjust that just a little bit. So we'll go right there. That looks pretty good. And then I put a mark right here. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Now, if you think about it, what we did is we made sure this side was the same as this side. That also makes sure that this side, once we draw it, is going to be the same as this side here. And then we measured off this distance from here to here. So we mark those. And then I come back and we're going to do the last line, the last ray on this. So I'm going to put my pencil right on that intersection. Snug that up right against there. Make sure that it looks good on that end. I need to adjust this just a little bit so that it looks right. And there we go. So we've got a copy of that angle there. Now on this next one, we're going to bisect the angle. So this is actually pretty easy. Making copies of stuff takes more time because you've got to construct the entire thing. Bisecting an angle, not too bad. So here's what we do. We're just going to set the compass any way we want. Okay, and then we just make sure that we don't adjust it again. I'm going to make an arc here and an arc there. Then all we do is we come back here and I'm going to make an arc out here. Again, make it long enough that it looks like it's going to go, the bisecting line is going to go right through there. And then I set my compass point right here, mark that, and I come back, and we're just going from the intersection of those two arcs to the vertex of that angle. So I'll put my pencil there, and that looks pretty good. So I'll draw a line right along there, and that looks excellent. Again, be as precise as you can. That would be awesome. And then on this one, on number 6, it says construct the perpendicular bisector of the segment. So perpendicular bisector. So we want to cut this right in half, and we want the line to meet it perpendicularly. So we're basically going to use these endpoints here. And again, set the compass however you want, as long as it's more than half. You can't do less than half, and you can't do right at half. That's not going to work. So we're going to make this a little bit more than half, and we're going to come up here. I like making it kind of about 3/4 or so. So I'm going to make an arc like this. Again, making sure that this arc covers roughly where that halfway mark is going to be. Then I do the same thing down here. Then I come over to the other side. Again, don't adjust the compass. And we go here, and we go here. And those are the two marks, those intersections that I need to connect. So we're going to line this up. Make sure we're good to go. That looks pretty good. And draw the line. So that's what we're looking for on that. Okay, let's take a look at the next page. Okay, we're on page 2. We're going to copy this triangle. Sometimes we might orient this differently, but I'm just going to go ahead and draw this line right here to represent that top one. And again, it's important that you use the construction techniques that we taught in class and that were on the videos. So just make sure you're using those, even though there are other ways to do this. So here's what we do first. I'm going to measure off this one, this distance right here. We're using the side, side, side technique. So we're going to come over here. And again, I line that up, put an arc right there. We've got that side taken care of. Now what we do is we come back here. We mark off this distance. That looks pretty good. Then I come over here, and I'm not quite sure where this is going to land. So what I do is I make a fairly long arc that looks like it would roughly work for this angle right here. Then we come back, and we're going to go from this end point to this end point. So basically what we're doing is we're measuring all 3 sides. And there's that. And we mark that off right there. So then we just have to connect these. So I'm going to line up there. Make sure that everything looks good. Looks great. Okay, so we're going to go from here to here. And then we'll go here and over to there. Again, making sure that when I put my pencil on there, whoops, let me go like that. There we go. And that looks good. So then we're just going to go from here to here. Again, those are the marks that we're looking for. Be as precise as you can. Looks like a pretty darn good copy. On this next one, it says reflect the triangle over QS, using QS as a side for the new triangle. So the cool thing about this is we get to keep this one right here. We're going to use QS there, and then it does say label this as R prime, S prime, Q prime. So here's the deal on this. We've already got QS taken care of, and we're going to use that again. All we're going to do is we're going to flip these two sides, these two legs over here. So we're going to go from here to here. Make sure that looks good. Then we're just going to swing over here, make an arc. We're going to do the same thing from R to S. That looks pretty good right there. So we come over here, make that, and then all we have to do is go from Q to this intersection. Looks pretty good. And go from S to that intersection. Whoops. Looks good there. And then we're going to label this as S prime, Q prime, and then this one, definitely that one's a new one, so that's going to be R prime. Okay, let's take a look at the bottom of this page. So it says bisect each angle of the triangle. Now, I've underlined angle right here. A lot of times people hear bisect and they automatically think, oh, I need to bisect the sides or something like that. Make sure you know whether or not you're bisecting an angle or a side. In this case, we're going to bisect the angles. So we did a bisection of an angle on the last page, so let's just remember how we did that. So we're just going to set the compass. Doesn't matter how big. Okay, I'm going to make this relatively small. So I put a mark here and a mark here. Again, if you don't go all the way through, it tends to make it look a little bit better. And then you can adjust it if you want. I suggest just leaving it the same. So I'm going to mark here and here. Now, we're basically going to go through the same process on every single one of these, but I would really recommend as you go through, I would just go ahead and draw the bisectors because we're hoping that they end up at the right point when we're done with this. We call that the point of concurrency. There's a couple other names for it also, so we draw it like that. So there's one of them. All we have to do is just repeat this for the others. So again, if you want to adjust the compass, you can. I'm just going to leave it the same on this one. We mark here and we mark here. Then we go ahead and hop on this one. We're going to make a mark right there, and hopefully I made that long enough, just barely. So we'll go from here down to there. Looks good. Draw like that. And again, go ahead and extend those. I'm going to make this just a tad smaller on this one. Adjust here and here. Make my arcs there and there. Make that arc. And then we're going to go from here, that point right there, that vertex, to here. So it's going to look something like that. Now, they do end up intersecting at that point right there. Again, if you're a tiny bit off, like if you notice, mine looks a little bit low there. Those two look like they're intersecting, and I think I need to probably sharpen my pencil just a little bit. So we'll go ahead and do that so we can make some nice fine points. But that's pretty good. Again, we're looking at the construction techniques. We should be able to see all of those marks on there. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the next page. Okay, on this next page, on number 10, it says, construct a perpendicular segment to the line from the external point. Make sure you don't confuse perpendicular with parallel. Students tend to do that a lot, so please be careful. So in order to make this construction, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set the compass so that it's a little bit longer than the distance to the line. And we're going to come over here and make a mark, and come over here and make a mark. Then without adjusting the compass, again, I'm going to make a mark right here, making sure that it's long enough so that it looks like it's going to roughly hit that bisector here, or that perpendicular. And then that second one's pretty easy to make because it can be fairly short. And then we're going to go from here, got a nice sharp pencil now, and to there. Looks pretty good. We'll go ahead and put a mark right there to indicate that that's a right angle, and we're all set on that one. That's all that's required there. And then on this one, this is very similar. We made these two marks here so that they were kind of equidistant from where that was going to cross. We do the same type of thing on this one. We're just going to set the compass. Doesn't matter how big or how small, as long as both sides fit on the line right there. Now, we'll just extend this a little bit more than where we were before, and then I'm going to make a mark right here. Again, notice that it's going to hit at least in that halfway mark, and then make a mark right there, and then I can draw the line. Now, occasionally I will make the same things on the bottom side of this, just to make sure. It kind of gives me a little bit of reassurance that it goes through there. So we've got a right angle on that one. And then this one says perpendicular bisectors of the three sides of the triangle. So remember, we did some angle bisectors before, so make sure you're reading it properly. Make sure you know whether it says angle bisectors or perpendicular bisectors. Here we're doing the perpendicular bisectors of the three sides. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to use each one of these vertices here as the end points of the lines. So we're just going to bisect this. So I just need to make sure that I'm a little bit more than halfway. And I'll make a mark here and a mark here. And then again, without adjusting this, we're going to make a mark here and make a mark here. And I would suggest drawing this perpendicular bisector while you've got them, because we're going to get quite a few marks on here, and it does get a little bit confusing. We want to make sure that we're as precise as possible. Okay, so we want to extend that. So that one looks pretty good. Then I'm going to go ahead and do this one. So again, extend a little bit more than halfway. So I'm going to go about like that. I'm going to go really far on this one. So I'm going to draw a mark over here and over here. And then again, it's important that we don't change the compass setting once we're working on a side. So just barely made that long enough over there, and there they intersect like that. So we'll do the intersection of these arcs. So we're going to go from here over to there. That looks good. All right. And then we've got the last one to do. Again, we've got a whole bunch of marks going on here. So I'm going to mark about like this. Okay, so I'll make a mark there and over here. Okay, hopefully those are long enough. And a mark here and over here. Oh, just barely, just barely. Okay, so they intersect right there. So we'll line that up. And if we did this right, and this one's going to look pretty good, Take a look at that. I think this worked better than the last one. Look how those line up just perfectly right there. So we're in great shape on that one. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last page. Okay, last page here, it says construct a parallel line to the line below that passes through the given point not on the line. So again, I've underlined parallel because we got to make sure that we're doing parallel and not perpendicular. So the technique for this, we set the compass so that it's a little bit more than the distance to the line, because what we need to do is we need to make 2 marks here. So I'm going to go ahead and make those marks. We make this mark, and you can just make one big gigantic arc all the way around here, and then we need to extend this up so a parallel will run about right here. So we're going to make this a little bit longer than what it needs to be. Now it's important that you don't change your compass setting, so let's go ahead and put this right here. We make this mark right here, and then we make this mark using that center point for the compass, and we make that mark right there. So that's what we're looking for, and the cool part about this, it's very quick. It's one compass setting, and then we're going to come back here and we're going to line up that point with that intersection. Make sure that looks good, and we're going to draw that line there. And these two are parallel now. So that's called the rhombus technique. Really nice, easy technique, goes very quickly. I'm going to go ahead and sharpen my pencil and my compass pencil. Just to make sure we're ready for these last couple, because these are going to need some precision when we do these. So go ahead and sharpen that. Looks like we're good there. Okay, it says construct an equilateral triangle with side lengths equal to the given segment. So I'm going to do this one. I'm going to set our distance right here because we want to make all the sides. When it says equilateral triangle, all 3 sides are the same. So that looks pretty good there. Now I'm going to put a point right here. And I'm doing this backwards from the way I normally like to do it. I normally like to do the line first, but I'll go ahead and get out of my comfort zone and do this first. So we're going to go from that point to right there. And then what we do is we take both of these endpoints and we just say, hey, look, we don't need to adjust the compass again. I just need to make my mark right here. Make the same mark using this other point as the center. And because we haven't changed the compass setting at all, each one of these is going to be exactly the same length, which makes this an equilateral triangle, and we are all set to go there. Okay? All right. Let's see. Last couple here. It says find the center of the circle. Find the center of the circle. So remember, to do that, we're going to make a arc right here. And as long as you make another chord, sorry, not an arc, a chord. So we make a chord right there. As long as we make another chord that's not parallel to that, then we're okay. So I'll just come over here and draw one like that. And then what we want to do is we want to find the perpendicular bisector of each one of those sides. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my compass to be a little bit more than halfway. Okay, if you want it, as long as it fits on the page, it's totally okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and make an arc right there. And then without changing it, I'm going to come make a mark over there. And then again, without changing it, just change the center point of the compass to the other end point of that chord. And there we go. So I'm going to draw this line right here. Again, the more precise you are, the better off. And if we make this really sharp, that makes things a lot better. So there we go. That's the perpendicular bisector of one chord. Now let's do the perpendicular bisector of the other chord. So let's see what we've got here. Yep, that's definitely more than halfway, so we're in good shape there. So I'll go ahead and make an arc out here and an arc over here. Again, don't change the compass setting once you're working on an arc. So we'll make that mark right there and that mark right there. And then we come back and draw this line. So I'll set that up. Line up right there. And I think we're a little bit, there we go. Okay, that looks a little better. Okay. All right, now again, the sharper your pencil is and the more accurate you are, the better this is going to be. So what we think is this intersection point right there, that is the center. So I'm just going to do a quick little double check. I'm going to say, look, well, that should be a radius, and it should be okay if I swing in almost any direction. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good, and that looks pretty good. So that was not bad. Okay, sometimes that can be pretty tough. Okay, this one says construct the regular hexagon inside, or inscribed. Again, inscribed means inside. And remember, inside means it's got to be touching the edges. Okay, so here's how this works. We just set up the compass. If we already have the center, that's good. Now you want to make sure you're as accurate as you can possibly be. So make sure that center point is right in the center of that dot. and then I'm going to come over here, and that looks pretty good right there, okay? Just when I do that little arc, it's right on top of there. So then we come over and we put a dot, pick any one you want, anywhere you want, and we're going to start right there, okay? So we're going to make a mark, we're going to make another mark, and we're going to do this 5 times. Now the 6th time, if you'll remember, we kind of talked about this, the 6th time is kind of like a double check. So I go ahead and make that one. Okay, now I've made 5 of them, so basically I've got this point, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertices. The last one is kind of a double check to see how accurate we were, and take a look at that. It's almost right on top of that. That's pretty darn good. So here's what we do. We just connect every single one of those intersections. So we're going to draw this side. We're going to draw this side. We just work our way around there, and we hit all 6 of those. And because I'm basically marking off the measurement that the compass did, because it's measuring that distance there, this is going to be a regular hexagon. All of these sides that I'm drawing are all exactly the same length. Okay, and here's the last one, and looking pretty good. Okay, all right, excellent. We're on the last one, so this is construct a scribe inscribed in the circle. So here's how we do this. Again, it's really nice if the center point's already there for us, because we just plop down our straight edge and we draw a diameter. Now, these 2 endpoints are going to be 2 of the corners of the square, 2 of the vertices of the square. And then we're basically going to make another diagonal for this by making a perpendicular bisector. So we just now have to make sure, so this perpendicular bisector comes up all the time. So a little bit more than halfway, and I'm going to adjust this just a little bit so we can see. So a little more than halfway, so we're going to make a mark right there. Again, I can see that that's going to be okay there. Make a mark over here. Again, don't adjust the compass. Be as careful as you can on this. And let's see, so we make that mark and we make that mark. So then I connect those, and this makes us feel pretty good. This is what I was saying before. You could get away with just putting these marks up here, but it makes me feel good when I grab this intersection and that intersection, and I draw the line through those, and look, it goes right through the center. So I kind of like putting these other arcs down there. And then we're going to go just from here to here. We've just got 4 sides to do now. And connect those pieces, and we are all set to go. Now, remember, when you're doing the test, you want to make sure that you're careful and precise. Sharpen your pencil, sharpen your compass pencil. Make sure that you line things up with your straight edge so that they look really nice. And make sure you read the instructions carefully. One of the most common mistakes people make is not reading the instructions, maybe mistaking angle bisector for perpendicular bisector, parallel for perpendicular, or something like that. All right, good luck on the test.